Hello everyone, it's Artsy Tashan here. I know it's been a super long while since I've uploaded anything and I am super sorry for that. I've had a lot of stuff going on, but I am finally getting to put some time aside for content creation again. If you saw the community post I put up a few days ago, you would know that I have created my very first promo item. For those of you who may or may not know, a promo is a promotional item that is made to create interest, attract customers, and engagement. So yes, this is a business video. I've been super excited to launch this item as it is my first time doing something really limited edition. I started with an idea, just an image I had AI generate, and decided to create an idea board in Procreate to begin getting a better visual of what I wanted the final image to look like. You can see in the bottom left corner where I started recreating the candle ghost idea. I actually had a little bit of trouble trying to decide how I wanted it to look. I played with the idea of trying to make it look like the ghost was floating around the gravestone or maybe curious about it, but eventually just settled on it sitting on the gravestone. I went through quite a bit of back and forth before I finally settled on this sitting pose. The way the ghost is kind of just melting down the front of the gravestone. I really liked that in the original mock-up. I was actually really nervous to do this whole idea because I have never done a promotional item before. Something dedicated to being available for a limited time and pretty specific as well. We're hoping to get enough orders so that we can do a full run in the beginning of October and have them ready before Halloween for people. I was so nervous to start this, in fact, that I didn't even take the time to record myself actually drawing, so this entire video is going to be in speed paint form. My next video will be in the format where I actually recorded myself drawing, since I recorded that video a little while ago. Jumping right back into this one though, I wanted the frame of this image to look very liquidy, since the whole concept of the art piece is that it's a candle ghost that is melting. I wanted that liquidity to be carried through the whole image, not just what's at the center of it. I really decided to throw my everything at this picture and did all of my coloring in the sketching phase. This is not something I normally do because it can be very time consuming to spend all my time in the sketching phase, especially once I get done with the line art. I don't really want to redo all of the coloring and shading again. However, in this one, I was so determined to get a full picture before I finished the full picture that I ended up in that exact situation anyways. Another thing I'd like to point out is the fact that I used white to do my sketch, which does not seem super significant, but actually really messed me up in my planning. This is because of color theory. Every artist's best frenemy. I could dedicate an entire video to explaining the color theory behind this choice, but I'll stick with just recommending you use a color to sketch in closer to the color you plan on doing your line art in. I certainly don't regret my choice in using white to sketch, but it definitely changed my plans. I normally use black for my line art, but in this case I ended up defaulting to a colored line art style, which I am definitely not used to, and I had to learn how to deal with it right on the spot, especially in the way that I normally do my shading. In the end, I did decide that I wanted the whole image to be very soft and warm while sticking with a little bit of eerie darkness, which actually led the colored line art to work out in the end. I kept the shading really smooth, sticking with a soft brush to create some semi-consistent gradients with all of the lighting. This is another thing that I'm not really used to since I normally use a blocking shading style. The soft shading definitely helped keep the overall soft tone of the image though. Moving on to the line art, which is still colored. Colored line art tends to be a lot more difficult for me because it takes a whole lot of layers, at least the way I do it. It is still a lot of fun and I like the effect that it gives, so if anyone has any tips on how to make it easier, please leave those in the comments for me. I tried to keep the colors as close as possible to what I did in my original sketch, and I feel like they came out really nice. I stuck with the really pastel tones, especially on the candle ghost, and tried to make the flower a focal point, along with the little flame on its head. This is where I kind of messed up with the shading a little bit. I didn't want to redo the shading entirely, so I tried to overlay it over what I had already drawn, but it wasn't coming out the way I really wanted it to, so I spent about 3 hours fussing with it and trying to make it look right over the line art I'd already done. I sped this next part up a whole lot because even though it was already sped up, it was still like 5 whole minutes of just me messing around with the shading, and I did not want to make you guys sit through that. I was even getting bored while trying to edit this section. Moving on, the final part of it was just making small adjustments and cleaning up the background. I wanted everything to look very clean and perfect for this promo. And I know that nothing can be perfect, but I really wanted it to be close to the best that I could do. Moving on to the candle. I wanted this candle to feel really similar to the candle ghost that's going on the front of the hoodie. So I stuck with the same color palette and the same shape of the flame as well. The shading was a bit easier on the candle because there was only one light source I had to account for. On the candle ghost, since I made both of the flowers glowing as well, I had 3 different light sources that were adjusting the shadows. I put some extra time into how the light would be coming off of the flame itself, since I couldn't just do a regular gradient or just glow like I normally would on a drawing, since all of our shirts and hoodies are printed with DTF, which is direct to film transfer vinyl. So when I was thinking of how to make the candle look glowing without actually creating a gradient, I had to take into account that I couldn't have a gradient due to the fact that it would just be a giant white space on the hoodie. Instead, I used this halo effect, which I think came out really cool. I was really happy with that, and after I had the lighting done, moving on to the shading was super easy once again. I just decided to redo it this time instead of using the same shading method that I had used on the candle ghost, not only because that was more time consuming, but I also wanted to add more highlights on the candle. After some more fussing with the details, I moved on to doing a little bit of framework, which was essentially just adding the same kind of blobby and flowing blue background. It helped hide it in with the candle ghost a little bit more. Moving on to the final piece of this giant picture is the moon. This moon went by really fast because it was very simple to do. Doing the line art and then just dropping in that same waxy color that I was using before, I decided to mimic the drippy halo effect that I added on the candle, added some shading and lighting, and it was already almost finished. The final step was to add that blue blobby framework again, which helped tie everything together back to the candle ghost image. Here are the final 3 images side by side, and here is the mock-up we currently have of the hoodie design. If you like the design, you like the hoodie, and you'd like to support my artwork, please follow the link in the description to place your pre-order today. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.